Launch 1 is to enhance warfighting responsiveness, resilience, and survivability. And for those of you following along, today's launch will be SpaceX's 85th launch of the year and the 8th just this month. Now, weather is currently green with a 0% possibility of violation, and the only clouds around are the ones that we are making. Now, both the range and vehicle are also currently green, and we are on track for an on-time liftoff at 1:32 p.m. Pacific time. If for whatever reason we need to scrub, we do have a backup launch opportunity available tomorrow at 1:24 p.m. Pacific time. Also, at the request of our customer, we will not be showing any Stage 2 or payload deployment views, so our live mission coverage will end right after the first stage landing. So while that countdown continues, let's take a closer look at the launch vehicle supporting today's mission. The Falcon 9 rocket there on your screen is a two-stage rocket designed for the reliable and safe transportation of satellites, cargo, and people. Starting from the very top of the rocket is the payload fairing. That fairing is a protective shell that shields the payload from aerodynamic heating until the vehicle is outside of the Earth's atmosphere. The shape of the fairing contributes to Falcon 9's overall efficiency, helping to reduce drag during flight. Once in space, those two fairing halves will separate and return to Earth, where they will be retrieved by a SpaceX recovery vessel to be refurbished and reused on future missions. And both halves of the fairing are flight-proven, with one side flying for its 6th time and the other for its 5th. Now, right below the fairing is Falcon 9's second stage, which features a single Merlin vacuum and good call out there. The second stage features a single Merlin vacuum or MVAC engine. And below the second stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage, and inside of that is where the MVAC engine is currently housed. And below that we have the first stage or booster, which very shortly will be fully loaded with about 1 million pounds of liquid oxygen and RP-1 rocket-grade kerosene. Now that first stage makes up the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle and has 9 Merlin M1D engines at the bottom, which generate more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust. And the booster supporting today's mission will be making its 4th flight today, after previously supporting the NROL 179 mission just last month, in addition to 2 Starlink missions. Now, about 2.5 minutes into flight, the first stage will separate and return to Earth, and today the booster is headed to SpaceX's drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently stationed in the Pacific Ocean. So with just over 5 minutes to go, everything is on track for today's mission. Now, next up in the countdown, the transporter erector, or TE, will begin to retract away from Falcon 9. The TE is the large support structure next to the rocket.
It's setting for strong back retract.
And there's that call out getting ready for the TE strong back retract. So that TE is hinged at the base and connected to the launch mount beneath the first stage. First, we'll see the clamp arms around the second stage open. Then the TE will begin to pivot back, slowly swinging away from the vehicle. And it'll reach full recline at around the T-minus 2 minute and 50-second mark.
Strong back retract.
And there's that call out that strong back retract is starting, and very shortly we should see those clamp arms beginning to open around the second stage. Now, those clamps help stabilize the second stage during fueling and prevent movement in high winds. Once they're open, the rocket will be fully freestanding at the top, but will still be held down at the base. And you can see those clamp arms opening around the second stage there on your screen. Now, you may hear the TE called the strongback, though the strongback is just one of the components of the transporter erector. The TE has 2 components, a strongback alongside Falcon 9 and a launch mount underneath. And that launch mount has the 4 hold downs that will release at the T-minus 0 mark. Now, the TE does a lot of heavy lifting as it rolls Falcon 9 out to the pad, raises it vertical, and stays connected to the rocket through the final seconds before launch. And you can see that strongback retracting away from the Falcon 9 rocket. It also provides fuel, power, telemetry, and command connections between ground systems and the vehicle. Now, propellant is loaded late in the count, and that's intentional. Colder propellants are denser, and denser propellants mean more performance out of the same tanks. And before any of that propellant flows, though, the plumbing and engines are chilled down, and that prevents thermal shock and boil off when the ultra-cold liquid starts moving. And you may hear that referred to as engine chill. Now, loading wraps.
Stage 1 LOX load complete.
And there's that call out that Stage 1 LOX loading is complete. Now, loading wraps in 2 steps. The first stage finishes around the T-minus 3-minute mark, as we just heard, and the second stage finishes about a minute later. The tanks are also pressurized using helium, and that helium is chilled too, so it stays compatible with the cryogenic plumbing. Now, during flight, that pressurization helps force propellant into the engines as the tanks empty. Now, looking forward into the count, at the T-minus 60-second mark, Falcon 9 will enter startup, and this will mean that the rocket's autonomous internal flight computers will have taken over the launch countdown. And then just inside of T-minus 2 seconds, we'll light the M1D engines for liftoff. Payload continues to be healthy, and the Falcon 9 team is currently tracking no issues with the vehicle. Weather is still looking green, and the range is ready to support our T0 of 1:32 p.m. Pacific time. So with that, we're proceeding into the final moments before liftoff.
Stage 2 LOX load complete.
And there's that call out that Stage 2 LOX loading has completed. Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of RP1 and LOX. And coming up shortly, we should hear the call out for ground gas closeout starting.
Ground gas closeouts.
And there's that call out, and that refers to venting and closing out gaseous systems, such as topping off tanks and sealing vents to maintain pressure. And coming up in just a few moments at the T-minus 1 minute mark, we'll hear that call out that Falcon 9 is in startup.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And there it is. Falcon 9 is now in startup. At this point, the autonomous flight computers have taken over the launch countdown, and stages 1 and 2 are pressurizing for launch. And we're just waiting on the final go, no-go from the launch director.
This is the MD. MD is go for launch.
And the MD has given the final go for today's mission. So let's sit back and watch as Falcon 9 takes the SDA Tranche 1 Launch 3 payload to space.
T-minus 3 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9. Go SpaceX, go SDA. Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Chamber pressure nominal.
At T plus 30 seconds and counting, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Slick 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. We're now throttling down the engines to prepare for max Q, which is the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure
Power and telemetry nominal.
during ascent, and good call out there for nominal telemetry. Now, max Q occurs when the combination of speed and air pressure puts the greatest stress on the vehicle.
Vehicle is supersonic.
There's that call out that the vehicle is now supersonic, going faster than the speed of sound. We should be hearing that call out for max Q in just a few moments from now.
Max Q.
And there's that call out for max Q. Now, coming up next, we'll have a few events happening in quick succession, starting with MECO, followed by stage separation, and then SES-1. Main engine cutoff, or MECO, is where all 9 Merlin 1D engines shut down on the booster to slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation, which is where the first and second stages separate. Following this...
MVAC chill.
And good call out there for MVAC chill. Now, following that, the MVAC engine on the second stage will light, which is called out as second engine start 1, or SES-1. Now, this engine burn lasting several minutes will propel the second stage and the payload to orbit. And in addition to these major events, the fairing halves will separate about 50 seconds after SES-1. Now, as a reminder, we will not have any views of the Falcon 9 second stage or the payload at the request of our customer. Now, this series of events, again starting with MECO, is set to begin in just about 15 seconds from now.
Stage separation confirmed.
Main engine cut off. Invac startup.
And there we heard that series of back-to-back callouts, which again were MECO, followed by stage separation, and then SES-1. And coming up shortly, we should hear a callout for fairing separation, but as a reminder, we will not be showing it on screen. As I mentioned earlier, both of the payload fairing halves supporting today's mission are flight proven, with one half flying for its 6th time and the other for its 5th.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there's that confirmation of fairing separation. Those fairing halves will now fall back to Earth, and we will attempt to retrieve them with our recovery vessel, Go Beyond. If you're just joining us, you're watching live coverage of the SDA Tranche 1 Launch 3 mission. To recap the mission so far, we had an on-time liftoff at 1:32 p.m. Pacific Time from Slick 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California, and had successful stage separation of our Falcon rocket. And we've got some wonderful views of the California coastline there on your screen. Now, up next will be the return of our Falcon 9 booster to Earth. In order to make its way back, the Falcon 9 first stage has 2 more burns it needs to execute. First up will be the entry burn, which helps to slow the stage down as it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. And then following the entry burn shortly thereafter, the booster will initiate the landing burn, which will slow the vehicle down for a soft touchdown on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, currently stationed in the Pacific Ocean. We're expecting that entry burn call out at around the T+6 minute and 23 second mark. Now, to start the entry burn, we'll be relighting 3 M1D engines, which is similar to pumping the brakes to slow down the vehicle as it passes back into Earth's atmosphere. We need to slow down the vehicle to reduce re-entry forces, which then helps us recover and reuse that first stage. Now, during the entry burn, Falcon 9 is decelerating by firing its Merlin engines in the direction that it's moving. And this causes the rocket to fly through the engine's exhaust gases, which deposits a layer of soot on the vehicle's skin. And this is what gives our flight-proven vehicles their characteristic look. That soot comes from the carbon-based fuel that Falcon 9 uses, and with each flight, the soot builds up a little more on the outside of the vehicle. Now we're just under 1.5 minutes away from that entry burn, and you can follow the telemetry at the bottom of your screen. On the left-hand side, we can see the vehicle speed and altitude, and the right-hand side will show the engines that'll relight once that entry burn starts. Falcon 9 is also equipped with 4 hypersonic grid fins, and you can see them from time to time with the views on your screen. And those are positioned near the top of the first stage and are used to steer the vehicle as it returns to Earth. These are the primary aerodynamic control surfaces for the first stage during atmospheric reentry and descent, and are a critical part of Falcon 9's reusability system. From time to time, you might also spot white puffs coming from Falcon 9, and those are the cold nitrogen gas bursts, which help with attitude control. Now, reusability is key to lowering the cost of spaceflight, enabling more investments in critical space infrastructure. As I mentioned, the Falcon 9 first stage supporting today's mission is about to perform its entry burn for its 4th time. And we should be hearing that call out for entry burn in just about 10 seconds from now.
Stage 1 FTS is safed.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
And there's that call out for entry burn startup on the Falcon 9 first stage. This burn is set to last about 26 seconds, and again is slowing down the vehicle in preparation for its final burn and landing.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And there's that call out for entry burn shutdown, signifying completion of the Falcon 9 first stage entry burn. Now, the Merlins on the Falcon first stage are optimized for sea level, and these achieve 190,000 pounds of thrust each during ascent and descent. At liftoff, Falcon's first stage has thrust greater than 5 747 airplanes at full power. The single MVAC engine on the second stage has a much wider nozzle, and it's optimized to operate in space, producing 220,500 pounds of thrust in vacuum. Now, coming up shortly, just about 40 seconds from now, we'll have the start of the landing burn of the Falcon 9 first stage. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the final burn the booster will perform on today's mission, and it's used to reduce the remaining speed of the vehicle for a gentle and precise landing on our drone ship. Of course, I still love you.
Transonic.
There's that call out that stage 1 is now transonic. We'll have a soft and gentle touchdown on our drone ship. Of course, I still love you, currently stationed in the Pacific Ocean. Now we should be hearing that call out.
Stage 2 terminal guidance.
And nominal call out there that stage 2 is in terminal guidance. We should be hearing that call out for the first stage landing burn in just about 10 seconds from now.
Stage 2 FTS is safed.
Stage 1 landing burn.
And there's that call out for the landing burn startup of our Falcon 9 booster.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
And vac shutdown.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And another successful landing of our Falcon 9 rocket.
Nominal orbit insertion.
And there's that call out for nominal orbital insertion of the second stage. Now, as a reminder for the booster, this was the 4th launch and landing for the booster supporting today's mission. Now, as a reminder, we will not be showing any stage 2 or deployment views today at the request of our customer. So with the successful landing of our booster, we'll be bringing our webcast to a close. We'd like to thank the Space Development Agency for entrusting us with today's mission, as well as the Range and FAA for their support. If you're interested in more launch coverage, be sure to check spacex.com/launches and follow @SpaceX on X for the most up-to-date information. And when you're there, check out our departure board featuring our upcoming launches with details such as mission name, launch and landing sites, and liftoff time. We are actually counting down to our next Starship launch, Flight 13, set to launch from Starbase, Texas in just about 2 hours from now. As always, excitement guaranteed, so be sure to tune in. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.